Okay, so let's discuss this week's Parsha, which is making a siyum. We're finishing Sefer Bamidbar, Matos Maseh, the second one of the 3 weeks, and we'll discuss a little bit more of the 3 weeks, maybe at the end of this week or early next week. But today I want to focus about the Parsha of Matos, which is more specifically, in something that I think is very relevant to us, in juggling our business and our home lives in our generation, which is different than any other generation, and specifically during this time period of Corona, is even more. This whole thing came into a serious being. So if you look at the end of Parshas Matos, you have the story of Bnei Gad and Reuven, the children of Gad and Reuven, that they had an abundance of wealth. Umikne Rav Haya livnei Reuven, ulivnei Gad atzum meod. Reuven had so much wealth, and Gad even more. Vayiru es Eretz, and they just conquered Midian, and they're saying, wow, the Jordan Valley, the other side of Jordan, where Jordan is today, this is a great land for grazing and raising our sheep and our families, and we want to stay over here. And they turn to Moshe and they say, we want to stay over here. And Moshe gets upset at them. What, are you guys crazy? You want to do the sin of the spies all over again? And you don't want to go into the land of Eretz Yisrael? So they're like, no, we just want Vayikshu ela vayomru gidros tzon nivne lemiknenu po ve'arim letapeinu. We want to build fences for our cattle and cities for our families. And we're going to be in the lead. We're going to be in the front of the war, and we're going to make sure that our brothers, the Jewish people, will conquer the land of Eretz Yisrael. We're not planning on leaving anybody, and we won't come back until everyone does the kibush and the nachala. And Moshe says, if that's what you're going to be doing, and he does the T'nai b'nei Gad and b'nei Ruvain, so then it's okay. You get to stay here. You should build yourselves cities for your families. And you should build the fences for your cattle. Whatever you say, you should be doing. And then Moshe Rabbeinu is sort of okay with them. So when reading this, first of all, the most basic question is, why did Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain not want to go into the land of Eretz Yisrael? What made them suddenly decide that they want to stay here, Me'ver HaYarden, and leave the Eretz Chem that we're talking about, the Shvatim, and they know what happened with Chet HaMeraglim? They're just the last one of them was Nifter from 40 years being in the desert. Why did they not want to come into the land of Eretz Yisrael? That's question number one. Question number two is, Moshe Rabbeinu was upset at them. He's so upset at them because, what do you mean you don't want to come in? And Hashem got upset at Am Yisrael. But then at the end of the day, he agrees with them. So was it a good request or was it not a good request? Was it wrong to request to live in Jordan, or was it right to request to live in Jordan? And the whole parsha, which is the final question, it's the entire conversation is between the tribes of Gad and Reuven, but who in reality stayed on the other side of the Jordan? We call it Gad, Reuven, v'chatzi shevet HaMenashe. When did Chatzi shevet Menashe come into this? Why is there half a tribe of Menashe? I think there's something very, very profound that we find in the Medrash that pertains to our life, and specifically to people who are working and trying to juggle business life and home life together. And even more particularly during this time period, I can tell you from my personal experience where I'm giving this shiur from home and my children are running outside over there. And in between, as I'm preparing, they're coming in and they're coming out. See, we live in a generation where it used to be in the previous generations, the lines were very, very clear. It used to be that home was home and business was business. And in the morning, a person woke up at home, he said goodbye to his kids, he would kiss his kids, his mishpacha, he would go to work, he would sit in the office from 9 to 5, whatever the times was. That's when he would work. When he would come home, he would take off his shoes, he would put on his slippers, and now he was home. He would be reading the paper, he would be learning, whatever he would be doing, he was now at home. And the lines were very, very clear, and there was a home, there was a family, and there was work. There's two separate things. Nowadays, the lines are so blurred. A person comes home, he still has a phone call coming in from New York, and he still has the last email to check, and his boss just sent him one more WhatsApp, and he's got another thing, oh, you got to finish this report, and he's just got to finish this. So he's sitting there at supper, and he's still finishing work, and he never really left work. Work came with him into home. And vice versa is also true. A lot of women are working now. They're going to work, and they're running their business, but meanwhile, they're making sure that the hasa'ah, that the ride for the kids coming back, and one kid is sick, and they're text messaging the doctor and the teacher and the this. They're running the home from work, and they're running work from home, and everything gets to be blurred, and especially now during Corona, where everyone is at home and everything is blurred, all of the lines have been blurred. But it's not only that they're blurred in time, they're blurred also in priority. What is exactly our priority? Are we working to live, or are we living to work? We're so busy working and being up to date and checking our status and checking our LinkedIn and making sure that we're getting the right connections and networking. But what are we doing it for? Is it in order so that we could live, so that we could enjoy the reason why we're working so that we could enjoy our life, which is priceless, and our children that are priceless, and the values that we represent and we give over, which is priceless? Isn't that what we're working for? But we forget that. And the priorities get warped. And when the priorities get warped, so then what exactly are we living for? Because we're just living in order to work. That doesn't make sense. So when do we actually have time to live and to enjoy what life is all about? And in fact, that's what the Medrash says. The Medrash over here says, and Rashi quotes this. I'm just quoting a Parsha to Rashi. The Medrash says, Umikne Rav, Zeh Amar HaKosov, this is what the Pasuk in Koheles says, this is the Medrash in Bamidbar Rabbah, Parsha Chav Beis. Leiv Chacham liyamino v'leiv kesil lismolo. The heart of a wise person is to the right, and the heart of a fool is to the left. Leiv Chacham liyamino is a Yetzer Tov. Shu nasan beyamino v'leiv kesil lismolo is a Yetzer Hara, which is on the left. What does that mean? Leiv Chacham liyamino, Elu b'nei Ruvain, Leiv Ksil Ismol Elu b'nei Ruvain uvnei Gad she'asu es ha'ikar tafel v'es ha'tafel ikar shechibevu es mamonam yosem min ha'nefashu shehein omrim l'Moshe gidros tzon nivne lemiknenu po v'arim letapenu. If you're medayik at the psukim, the Medrash says that Gad and Reuven, they missed in their priorities. We have to understand, what is the priority? What am I working for? So what did they tell Moshe Rabbeinu? Says the Medrash, look at the pasuk. They tell Moshe Rabbeinu, we will build fences for our cattle and homes for our families. What did they put first? What was the most important thing for them? We're going to build a large business. We're going to be very successful over here. And of course, we're going to build homes for our families. We're going to build Batei Medrash. We're going to build shuls and communities. But we're going to be very successful over here. Moshe Rabbeinu tells them the other way around. They did. Amar lahem Moshe eina klum ela asua ikar tchila benu lachem arim letapeichem. First, build cities for your children. Build schools. Build shuls. That's why you want to stay there. V'achar kach v'gidros letzonechem. And only afterwards focus on your business, on making sure that you have a successful business. So the Pashup Shad that Rashi tells us, that the Medrash tells us, is that Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain had their priorities warped a little bit. They saw this land was fertile, this land had so much time, so much opportunities. We could be very successful over here. This is Aver HaYarden, it's outside of Israel, but we could be very successful outside of Israel. We could have successful businesses. But he says, okay, but what are your priorities? If your priorities are warped, so then it won't be as successful. They said, but we're going to be dedicated to the Jewish people. We're going to send our money. We're going to run in advance. We're going to fight the battles. We're going to be there for them. We're going to make sure we're there for the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu was still a little bit nervous. But I want to go one shlav deeper before we fully understand it, because we're talking about the Shvatim. We're not talking about ourselves. We're not talking about our taiva for mammon and our, we want to be successful. We want to make sure we're super successful. We're talking about Ruvain, the Bechor of the Shvatim. We're talking about God. What does it mean over there? So the Mefarshim really explained to us a much deeper understanding of what's going on over here. See, the Maharal explains, did you ever think about it? Why is it that some people love to live in the city and other people love to live in the farm or in the country, in the moshav, right? We have different personalities. Some people, they love the city, they love the energy of it. And other people, no, they like the quiet and be. Different people are drawn to different places to live in. And the Maharal, based on the Medrash, says that different climates produce different types of people. We even mentioned this in our Shiur last week about Pinchas, that some rivers produce Shtufei Zim, and some rivers produce people that are strong. Different countries produce different types of, we'll call it personalities or makeups of people. And people are drawn by their Shorish HaNeshama of whatever their tafkid is. They're drawn by what their soul yearns, and they understand in their subconscious, this is my mission. I like to take care of animals. I like to play music. I like to work. I love numbers, right? We're drawn to different things, and that becomes very much a part of how we live our life. Says the Maharal, Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven were drawn to the land of Ever Hayardi because Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, and Gad comes first because he was even wealthier. But Reuven was the Bechor, and the Bechor gets double the Nachla. The Bechor gets double. The Bechor has the opportunity of Shefa, of an abundance. Why? Because he's the one who's supposed to take care of the rest of the family. He's the one who's supposed to take care of everybody to make sure that everybody's okay. And therefore, he's given a lot of times the blessing of a double bracha, that he's matzliach, that he's successful. And they understood that this is the land where I could actually be successful in my business. And God is the same thing. God, if you recall, why is he called God? So says the pasuk, Ba Gad, right? Vatomer Leah, Ba Gad. What does the word God mean? God means Ba Mazal Tov, says Rashi. Shenemar Gad Gedi v'senuk v'domelo ha'ochim legad shulchan. Says Rashi, where do we get the word Mazal Tov? It comes from the word God. God means Ba, God, Ba Mazal Tov. God means Mazel Tov. It means he's got good mazel. It means that he's going to have an abundance, that he's going to be successful. We actually give that bracha to any child that is born. We say, be like God. You should have an abundance. You should have everything you want. God literally means Mazel Tov. You should have a good mazel. So in a certain way, we all want to be like God. We want to have an abundance of whatever it is we want in life. And in fact, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he calls God, when he gives the blessings at the end, at the end of Sefer Dvarim, in Vizosa Bracha, he says, Ulegad Amar, Baruch Marchiv Gad. Blessed is Hashem who made God so abundantly wealthy. So we see that there's a blessing in the fact that they were wealthy. There is something positive in the fact that they were drawn to this land, and this is the land that can make them successful. So what was wrong with their request? And not only that, Moshe Rabbeinu allowed them to stay Me'ever HaYarden. He said, you're right, if you're going to take responsibility for your brothers, so then I'm going to let you stay over here. What's going on over here? There's something very deep and very profound, deeper than just the basic understanding of what's going on. And I think the Nakuda is that Reuven and Gad, they had a bracha of an abundance, a bracha of being super successful. And with that comes a responsibility. In fact, the Gemara says, this is the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Dalet Amud Aleph, says the Gemara, Amar le Rabbanan le Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. They were children, Atu Dardekia Idna Lebe Midrasha. There were children who came to the base Medrash, and they said something that wasn't said even from the days of Yeshua ben Nun. They put together, the children, a whole way how to memorize the Aleph Beis. And they said Aleph Beis means Aleph Bina, that you should train the Bina from a child, from a young child. Gimel Dalid, Gomel Dalim. You should have Gemilus Chasadim. You should help the Dal, the poor. Hey, Vav Shmosav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rashi over there explains, the Gemara says, why is Gimel Dalid, Gomel Dalid? The way the Gimel looks, it looks like it's somebody who's running after the Dalid. Shechein Darko Shel Gomel Chasadim Loretz Achar Dalid. Umay Taima Pshuta. And that's the Gimel Dalim, Gomel Dalim. So in a way, when you put the words Gimel Dalit together, what does that spell? It spells God. Gimel Dalit, God. And what does the Gemara tell us is what the meaning of Gimel and Dalit together? Gomel Dalim, Gemilos Chasadim, is to help. So Ruvain and Gad were destined to be successful. That was their mission. That was their calling. And in fact, that's why they were drawn to the land of Eber Ayardin, because it was the land that has the potential for them to be super successful and wealthy with the cattle that they had, an abundance of cattle that they had. In fact, the Medrash says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made them wealthy, says the Medrash, V'achar umiknei rav, hishpil HaKadosh Baruch Hu es hamidyanim, v'romem es Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the minyanim go down because HaKadosh Baruch Hu keshabike sheyashir b'nei Ruven b'nei Gad he pilis hamidyanim lifnei Yisrael kedei sheyashir b'nei Gad b'nei Ruven. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Gad and Ruven to be successful. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knocked down the midyanim in order so that Gad and Ruven will be successful. This was this was their calling in life. A lot of times people find their calling. Yes, I'm very good at business. I can be very successful in my work. And why? L'shem shamayim. I want to do good things. I want to be matzliach. I'm the oldest one in my family. I have to take care of my younger brothers. I have to take care of my children. Gomel Dalim. I want to start organizations. I want to support organizations. That's exactly why they were drawn to that land, and that's why they wanted to stay there. But Moshe Rabbeinu was nervous that if they stay there and they're disconnected from their brethren, from Am Yisrael, who's entering the land of Eretz Yisrael, so then they're going to get lost in their abundance of wealth. And in fact, he saw it in the way they spoke, that their priorities were off. So Moshe Rabbeinu gave them Musar. And he said, your priorities are off. And they said, we're willing to go for 7 years to fight and to lead the fight of the Jewish people to make sure that each one of our brothers gets their full nachla. We'll leave our wives and children here, but we're going to go and fight. Not only that, they said, we're willing to stay for the 7 years that you're going to give out, that Yeshua is going to give out the land. We will stay till the end, until everyone sits in their home. We won't go back to our home. They realized they made a mistake. They realized that it was dangerous. They realized that there needs to be a change. That, in fact, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them, if you're willing to dedicate years of your life to fight for other people, and you understand what Gemilos Chasadim is all about, you understand what it means to not be complete until your brothers are complete, that's when you get to stay in that land. That's when you get a chance to live in the land that is destined maybe for you to be in abundance of wealth, because you will make sure that you will be looking out for the children of Hashem, for your brothers and sisters. So yes, we live in a generation where the priorities are skewed, where time between work and life is blurred, where priorities of what I'm supposed to be doing is blurred. Am I working just to make an abundance of money? But what's it all for? And Hashem sort of put a big break on humanity. And he said, no more work. And he said, everyone stay at home. Everyone spend time with your family. We're not running out to work anymore. Let's realign our priorities about what our life is all about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, Jews in our generation, what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain. Is it that you want to first build your businesses and then take care of your families and build your communities? Or is it that you really want to build communities, take care of your families, of the values, and therefore you want to have a good business? And sometimes we forget. And Moshe Rabbeinu knew that human nature is to forget. And in fact, that's why he gave them Chatzi Shevet Menashe. He said, if I leave you here right now, you're dedicated. You're going to fight for the next 7 years and stay for an additional 7 years. But what's going to be in the future? I'm going to take Shevet Menashe and split them in half, because they're going to be one family. They're going to always be traveling between one and the next. And then there will be a line of communication that connects Ruvain and Gad all the way to Eretz Yisrael. But the Medrash says that despite the fact that they were L'Shem Shamayim, their priorities were still slightly off. And because their priorities were off, says the Medrash, they were the first ones to go out into exile of the 10 Shvatim They were the first ones to get out into exile. They went first, and then the next 8, and only at the end was Yehuda and Binyamin, because their priorities were wrong, and they were off, because they were too focused on money, on success, and not enough on Gomlei Chasadim, not enough on Eretz Yisrael, not enough on looking out for the rest of the brethren. This is a challenge that we're facing today, and I want to quote to you a fascinating Yerushalmi, which, because we are here in the 3 weeks, and I think this is the omek and the depth of what we need to work on in our generation. Because Baruch Hashem, we live in a generation with an abundance of wealth, that we're drawn to live in certain communities outside of Eretz Yisrael and inside Eretz Yisrael, because we know we can be successful, and there are opportunities for us to be successful, and we want it for the right reasons. We want to be Gomlei Chasadim. We want to build communities and shuls and support our brothers in Eretz Yisrael. We want to do all of that. But look at what the Medrash says. This is the Gemara in Yuma, on Daf Tes Amud Beis, that speaks about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Famous Gemara that says that the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed for the 3 major sins, for Gilu Harayis, Avodah Zarah, and Shfichus Damim. And why was the second Beis HaMikdash destroyed? Says the Gemara, we all know, because of Sinas Chinam. Lelamdecha sheshkula Sinas Chinam keneged Shalosh Averos, to teach you that Sinas Chinam is parallel to the Shalosh Averos Chamuros. It's the worst thing, and that's the ghost that we're still in because of Sinas Chinam. So a lot of us know that Gemara. But I want to quote to you the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi over there in Yuma, Dalid, Mishnah Beis, says like this: Aval b'sheni, in the second Beis HaMikdash, makirim anu osam shahayu yegain batorah. We know that generation was toiling in Torah. There were yeshivas, there were batei medrash, they were sending their children to learn. Everything was going great. V'zehirin b'mitzvos u'b'maisros. They were even careful in doing mitzvos and getting a nice lulav and a nice esrog and Chanukah and even meiser. They gave meiser. They gave tzedakah. So what was wrong? V'chol veses tova haisa bahen. They had all of the good midos, ala milas. But listen to this. Says the Yerushalmi, Ella she'em ohavim es hamamon. They loved money. They had a desire and a push for money at the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. V'sonim elu le'elu sinas chinam. And because of that love for money, they hated one another for no good reason. Just because the other one has more, or just because the other one has less. Just because the other one took my job in my mind, in my story, even though he didn't. And just because the other guy took the Yerusha, and they hated one another because they loved the money. V'kasha hi sinas chinam, she shekula keneged avodah zarah gilaras of shfichus damim. The Yerushalmi conclude the sinas chinam is worse than the 3 big averos. Unbelievable Yerushalmi. Says the Yerushalmi that the whole reason why there was sinas chinam was because we loved money. If you love money and your priorities are off, if you love money, you end up hating people. If you love money in a certain way more than your family, you end up hating people in your family, extended family, immediate family. And this is why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. This is why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Wow. What about us? What about our generation? Do we want to live me'ever our Yarden? Are we willing to come into? We want to do l'shem shamayim. We want Torah. We want mitzvos. We want to have good midos. But do we love money? That's the question. That's how the Yerushalmi puts it. That's what Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. It's like hard to say such a thing, right? Who am I to say such a thing? A young rabbi. I get support, right? I go out there, and there are so many people who help our causes here in Eretz Yisrael. People who help me. So who am I to speak? I'm no one to speak. But I'm just reading the Gemaras, and it's an awakening thing for myself. And I don't know. It's difficult questions. And Moshe Rabbeinu knew that it wasn't going to be easy. In fact, the Navi says that in the time of Devorah, Hashofetes, right? Dvora Neviah, in the time of the Shoftim, which is maybe 100 years later. We're not talking about yet David HaMelech, which is like 300 years later, 400 years later. We're talking about 100, 200 years after they came into Eretz Yisrael. There's still no Beis HaMikdash. It's in the time of the Shoftim. And already then, it's a few generations later. She calls everyone to send troops to go to the army against Sisera, and Reuven and Gad did not send their troops. They didn't send their boys to go out to war with Bnei Israel, because we get caught up in our businesses. We get caught up in our industries. And it's hard for us sometimes to remember that we're part of a bigger cause. We lose our priorities. What exactly are we working for? Is it to get more money? Are we working to get more money? What's our passion when we get up in the morning? Well, that's the question. What is our passion when we get up in the morning? Are we excited to sign a new deal and to make more money? Or are we excited because this will give me an opportunity to help to do chesed? This, if I close this deal, I'm envisioning the 5 organizations I'm going to be helping. Am I envisioning that, or am I envisioning making more money and buying a bigger house? It's the same deal. We're going to be making the same amount of money. But this Parsha is telling us, let's set our priorities straight. If we're making more money, it's to help Am Yisrael. It's to help Hashem's children, to join the mission of the Jewish people, to be partners with Hashem, to make the world a better place, to bring Am Yisrael back to Eretz Yisrael, to create a perfect society here in Eretz Yisrael, so that we will be a light onto all the nations in the world. They'll be looking at the Jewish people in Israel, and they're going to say, wow, Hashem's children have created the perfect society. We're very far from it, but we're getting there. And that's the whole question. What's our priorities? When I'm about to sign that big deal, that big business deal, what am I thinking about? What am I excited about? The opportunities of chesed that I will have? So then it's great. Then I'm living up to my potential. Or is it the avas mammon? If it's avas mammon, it could, doesn't have to, but it could lead to sinas chinam. That's what this parsha is telling us. It's a frightening parsha. It's a parsha that speaks to us in our generation, a generation where the lines have been blurred, the lines of time, of how much time I spend at home and how much time I spend at work, the lines of priorities, of what exactly is my priority in life. And that's when Moshe Rabbeinu was upset at Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. This is why he got upset at them. This is why they wanted to stay there for good reasons, because they realized this is where they could be successful. They were drawn to the city. They were drawn to the place where they could raise their cattle. They were drawn to be successful in real estate or in finance, in accounting, as a doctor. People are drawn to different professions and to different locations. They know where they will be more successful and happy in their life. That's okay. That's why they wanted to stay there. Moshe Rabbeinu at the end let them stay there. But he was upset at them because their priorities were off. They were able to show him that, no, we're going to realign them. We're going to stay there. We're going to be focused directly on our children. And he said, if you're focused for 7 years on giving to Am Yisrael, I know your priorities will be straight. And that's why he let them stay. Because if their priorities are straight, they're part of the Jewish people. Even though they're not living in Eretz Yisrael, you could be a part of the Jewish people. Even if you're not living in Eretz Yisrael, you could be. If your priorities are straight, if you're thinking about the Jewish people. And that's why he let them stay outside of Eretz Yisrael, to be a part of the Jewish people. But over time, over generations, things fell apart. And priorities, again, were warped. And unfortunately, that's why they were the first ones to go out into exile. And that's something for us to think about as we are here in the 3 weeks. We're in the time of trying to fix sinas chinam, to think about what is the shorish, what is the cause, the root of the problem, to be able to undo it, to be able to realign our priorities and our focus, and we'll be zoche to see Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mher b'yameinu. Thank you so much, everybody.